My name is Srinivas and I'm into IT from last 8 plus years. From last 8 plus I worked in US about 3 years, and from that I've all worked on total big data tools from last 5 years. So in this one I'm working in US from last 3 years. So when it comes to this big data experience, I'm currently having 5 plus years of experience in big data, currently working as a data scientist. So as my daily responsibilities, I'll be using Hadoop and Spark, Python and R in my daily life projects. So when it comes to our certifications, I have completed DS 200 certification, data science certification, Cloudera part, and CCDH 410 certification, and CCA 175, Cloudera and Hadoop and Spark developer certification. So this is about me. Now let's get into our agenda. So today our agenda is what is big data, why I have to process big data, and the challenges in processing the big data. Then we will talk about what are the distributed frameworks. Okay, I don't directly jump into what is Hadoop. Okay, we will talk right now why Hadoop. So for that one you have to understand the problem called big data. So a lot of people have a confusion. Big data Hadoop. What is this big data Hadoop? There is no word called big data Hadoop. Okay, big data is different, and Hadoop is one of the solution for big data. Not only Hadoop is only the solution, there are n number of solutions. So let's get started with that. Okay, what is big data? By this time everyone know what is meant by a big data definition, because it's not a new word, it's not a buzzword. Understand, right? This has to be known. Even academic guys also should know what is this big data. But people who don't know that one, I would like to try to put it very simply, not very much complex. Okay, understanding, right? So let's get start with one scenario. What is a big data? Understand, right? So let's say here I'm talk about one scenario in the real world. What kind of data you call it as a big data? Okay, let's say here. Let's take one bank application. Let's take one bank application. Let's say www.xxxx.com. This is a one bank application. There is a web server, okay, like which was hosted on the application server, and you have something called database for that one. So this bank will have lot much details like loan, credit card, debit card, and all the details will be there in this application server. Okay, so fine. And background, what they will do, right? They will maintain a different systems. Okay, they will maintain different systems for different processing. Let's say this is a loan system, and there is some other thing called debit card system, and there is something called a credit card system. So this bank have a different verticals. If you ask any bank employee, he will be telling that he will be in a different vertical. So he might be in a loan system or debit system or credit system. Now your company wants, let's say yours is a bank domain industry. So your bank want to get some insights of the customer. So what they want to do, right? They want to combine all the data. So each system has their own databases. Okay, so if you pay some credit card, that data will come and sit in this credit card system, and if you going to do some loan payment, it will goes to the loan system. So these are the different verticals your project contains. Understanding, right? So now your company wants to provide some insights of the customer. See, daily you are going to process this loan data and generate a report. That is fine. And daily you will going to process some debit card data. That is also fine. That is like a reports you will do. And this is also daily you will going to generate a credit card report. This is fine. But nowadays companies wants to perform some analytics. They want to find out the relations between each systems. So to do that one, they want to maintain some data lake. So in the real world you will use this terminology called warehouse. You will call it as a data lake, or you can call it as a warehouse. What you will do, you will daily generate a report of that each system, and you will put it out in one location, that is called a data lake you call. Okay, let's say here what is this data lake and everything. So you will be getting all the data. See, it is very difficulty to communicate from loan system to debit card system. Why? Because right, why you need to combine all these three data, why these three systems has to talk. Let's say if my company employee or let's say my customer have already a credit card, it is a very easy for him to provide a loan. So as I already know about his customer his creditability, so we can give him a good loan, understand right? We no need to spend huge amount to provide a loan. So what I will do, I will going to find out the people who have a good credit rates, and we will going to call them and we will inform that we will be providing a loan within a 5 minutes. So then the customer will just going to satisfy very nicely and he will going to take a loan from us. So these are the reasons why we need to provide interlinks between different systems. Okay, see, we are talking about what is a big data, where it will come in a real time scenario, understanding it? So that's the reason I'll just going to talk about this use case. So I'm talking about scenario. So in the loan systems and debit card systems and credit card systems will be need to talk. So in order to talk, it is a very costly if you provide a cross communications between this system. Instead you will maintain something called data lake, where you will put all the data in that single location. On the single location you will perform some analytics and generate some reports. Okay, you will generate some reports and that report should goes to a customer service team. So these are what customer team will be there, and the customer team will get that report and they will be calling to the corresponding customers, or they will be update the database of the front end. Okay, understanding it? This is a project flow. So in this project flow, what is the main goal, right? You want to get new customers. That is the main goal. Where do you make huge business? In the data lake or warehouse. So in this place, what you want to do, you have to collect all the traditional data or all the structured data from all the loan system or debit system or credit system, and you have to generate a report. Okay, this will goes to here and they will call to the particular customer, and the customer will be very delighted because you are sanctioning one loan within a 5 minutes, because you already have a good information about them. So by this, what, not only regular processing, you can going to get some insights of the customer and it turns that one into huge business. Okay, so this data lake, you will going to use it in warehouse or somewhere. Let's say here you will be collecting a huge data in the data warehouse or a data lake. Let's say you have collected last 10 days data or last 30 days data, and you want to perform some analytics and get some insights. You know, let's say here, if you say that what is the infrastructure you will going to perform analytics, if you use RDBMS, what will going to happen, right? RDBMS have a lot much problems. We all know that in a traditional way of processing, we will use RDBMS to process the huge data. But RDBMS has lot of problem. RDBMS is not good to store huge data. Let's say 30 days data is really huge data. And RDBMS will take lot of time to process huge data because it will do sequential processing. So these are good for online and transactional processing, but this is something batch you are doing. You are doing this in the batch. What is meant by batch system? A batch system is nothing but data will be processed on the data which was collected over a period of time. So you have collected last 30 days data and you are performing analytics. So how do you want analytics, right? Look at this. Your CEO will say in a data lake, I want the tool like this. Let's say from January 1st to February 1st, what are his transactions, and accordingly we can do that. For every 30 days you want to generate a report. One next report should be from January 2nd to February 2nd. Like this, a window. You know, you might have seen cricket, you know, for last 5 hours, I want the run rate of last 5 hours for every 1 hour. Like that, they want the report of last 30 days per every day. Let's say January 2nd to Feb 2nd, next January 3rd to Feb 3rd. So you have to process the last 30 days data within 1 day gap, and you have to generate the report and give it to the customer representative team. So what tool you will use here? That is the deal right now. So if you use a regular traditional databases cannot hold this huge data to perform some analytics, understanding, right? So this kind of data that you cannot really process by using traditional databases. If you process, what will happen? Let's say 30 days data, it will take at least 2 or 3 days to give it out the result. To generate report, if I use it out with this disadvantages like sequential processing, 2 or 3 days if you going to take to process, at that time you really don't need that report. You need the report within a day. Okay, but you are taking lot much time to process that report, understanding, because it is doing sequential processing. So this kind of data we can call it as a big data. Okay, so a simple definition that I want to give it out for big data is what? A big data is something data which you cannot process traditionally. Okay, which you cannot process it out by using on hand traditional base management systems. So look at that, what are there. Okay, look at this here. I can give a simple definition now. So that is what called, okay, what is a big data? So big data is something like a term for collection of data sets which are large and complex, and it is very difficult to process on hand database management systems. Understanding, right? This is really complex data which you cannot process it by traditional databases. For example, let's say, oh really, in my real time I am using traditionals only to process the data. Everyone have this question. Yes, of course, you are processing only one day data only. If you are working in any IT providers company, what you will be doing, you will collect the data for the day and you will generate a report in batch model and gives that report to the downstream systems. This is what the game that you currently performing. But nowadays people not only wants regular processing, so companies wants to provide something called analytics also. So last 30 days data, this is today's data processing. If it compares this today's processing from the last 30 days data, this is the where you can put this today's data in the scale. Like that, you have to provide some analytics. Companies expecting nowadays not only the services and also analytics as well. So let's say if you are some service provider, IT service provider, you have to present analytics as well along with the regular processing. To provide analytics, you need huge data. Okay, so that data you cannot use it by traditional systems. That data, huge data which you cannot use it by using traditional systems, is called big data. Understanding, right? Let's see this example. This example, right, you know, New York Stock Exchange will be using the huge data, daily terabytes of data will be there, and they will going to do stock trading analytics to determine optimal trades for the day. So the data is generating for every seconds. At that time, don't think they will going to put this data in the traditional databases to process. Understanding, right? So this is kind of data, if you put it in the database, it really take lot of time to process. So we can't use databases to process this one. So this is the best example of a big data. Okay, understanding, right? So now I believe you have got a good idea what is the scenario we will going to see a big data things. Understand, right? Yeah, there are lot many definitions. People will put in a different definitions like, okay, big data is something unstructured data. Yes, of course, I agree. But remember here, big data, most of the companies in the real world, they will process structured data as a big data. They really don't go for something like unstructured data. That's a really big word. For the current situations, unstructured data is really a big word. Understand, right? Okay, you have to do much processing. I'm just telling you, very simple processing called structured data is also called a big data. Understanding, right? So let me put in other definition. Some peoples will going to say, yeah, big data is also something called a structured data and also complex data. Look at that here. If you see that blue color is what called relational data. If you buy something, it will be go and sit in the databases. Understand, right? But before you buy, you will do lot much search, right? Where you are storing, how it will be stored. If I purchase, if that record will goes to the database, means it will going to validate. If I am doing some search, okay, my session data or application data also get stored in the application server. So that is what data that you are storing in the application server is called application data or session data or inquiry data. Lot many names will be there for that. So it is not like structured what you have in the traditional databases. It will be most complex and also mostly unstructured data. So people will call, okay, big data as a combination of both structured and complex unstructured data as well. Understanding, right? Remember, alone unstructured data called as big data and alone relational data also called as a big data. Simply, that's what I'm giving a generalized definition. A data which is not having a cannot be processed by traditional systems, that is called as a big data. Okay, And there is one traditional definition what IBM gave is that this one. So a data which is having this 3V property is called as a big data. So let's say here, of course this is also a data which is having these 3V properties also cannot be processed by traditional database management systems as well. Let me put you that definition back again. I'll use some PPTs here. Okay, I'll come to this scenario back again, because this is what the scenario I will explain all Hadoop and everything. How do you process it out, what are the problems that you face when you are processing it out, and how do you process it by using Hadoop. Okay, so let's say here IBM gave a standard definition. You understand right now the scenario what is a big data where you will see in a real world. So let's say IBM gave you a definition. Okay, a big data is something, a data which is having this 3V property. So what is the 3V property? Let me tell you again in a scenario. Let's say one person will come and he will ask this person, are you working on big data? He will ask this question. Then he will answer yes. When he answers yes, he have 3 questions in his mind. Okay, what are the 3 questions? Let's see that one. The 3 questions, if he answer that, then he will call it as an yes, you are really working on big data. First question is, if you really working on big data, can I know how much volume you are working on? So if he going to say that if the volume is 1 GB or like 100 MB, 200 MB, really it is not a big data, because 1 GB data you can easily process by using traditional database systems. Understanding, right? That is not a big data. So if we going to say that yes, I am working on 1 terabyte of data, 1 petabyte of data, or let's say 800 GB data, like that. So if the data is a huge volume that you really cannot process by traditional systems. Okay, so if you say that if you really working on that volume, okay, you will going to say that okay, that might be a big data. But remember, this big data should be continuously flow, and he will ask other question, oh, you got that much huge volume of data, can I know from what velocity or what are the different sources that you will going to get the data? The velocity means here at what rate you are receiving the data. If I say from last 10 years, if I have 1 terabyte of data, it's not really a big data. Okay, so the velocity should be like, in minutes or in days. Okay, so let's example, let's go with aeroplanes. Aeroplanes do generate a big data. You might have a confusion. What aeroplanes will go in, what aeroplanes data people will use it out. Aeroplanes will generate 1 terabyte of data per every half an hour. Oh, what they will do with this 1 terabyte of data? What happening in the cockpit, right? In aeroplane, everything will be stored in a black box. Okay, like for every half an hour you will get 1 terabyte of data. You might have a question, what people will do with this 1 terabyte of data? Okay, or huge data. Look at this, they will be used for on hand traffic management system. So look at this, if you see this diagram you will get a clear idea. Look at this here. So here when aeroplanes are moving out, they will generate huge data. Okay, and they'll store it in a black box. From a black box it will just move out to something where called a real-time processing system. And what this real-time processing system will do, right, it will control the traffic across the different aeroplanes. Okay, so this data will be shared across the pilots to control the air traffic. So the aeroplanes data is really huge data, so it will be generating it very faster than the other things. Nowadays you will be getting the data very faster, like within half minute or within 1 hour, or let's say Facebook will generate 6 petabyte of day per day. That is the velocity, means per day 6 petabytes of data. Let's say aeroplanes will generate 1 terabyte of data per half an hour. So that is what some velocity, 1 terabyte for 30 minutes, like that. So there are lot many sources also there from where you are getting the data that much fast. People will say from online, from batch, from streaming, and also nowadays from sensors like IoT. Understanding, right? So this guy asked, are you working on big data? He answered yes, huge volume and also huge velocity, the different ways you are getting the data. Okay, fine. And he will ask another question, if you are getting from different sources, then there you might hold huge variety of data. Yes, of course. So he will say the kind of data he hold is what? Structured and unstructured and also semi-structured. Okay, so simply any data which is having this 3V property is also called as a big data. Of course, let's go to the first definition. I said a data which you cannot process by traditional database management systems, that is called big data, right? Of course, that matches to this. RDBMS cannot store huge volume of data, and it cannot go into insert huge velocity of data. Really, there are lot many tools which can inject the data with high velocity, like Kafka and Flume from the real world, and from Scoop from a batch world. Okay, and you can have a variety of data. Your RDBMS can only store structured data, understanding, right? So a data which is having these 3 V's, that is called as a big data. If you go to our past scenario, of course this scenario may contains only structured data, but that cannot be processed by traditional database management systems. That is also called as a big data. So you understand what is meant by big data. And now my question is, why we have to process big data? You are telling that RDBMS cannot process huge data, or traditional database management systems cannot process huge data, or traditional processing frameworks cannot process huge data. But why I have to process? If you see that in this use case, why you have to process? Because you can going to turn business from the existing data. You already have lot much data, but you are not making use of the data to get a new business. So if you going to process the big data what you have, that will going to bring you new revenue. Okay, understand, right? You can mine the data and you can get a new revenue, understanding, right? So that is the main deal, that you have to process the big data. So look at this, you will understand with this presentation, like why we need to process big data. Look at this. As I said, data lake is the location where you will gather the data from different systems, and you will apply some kind of analytics, and that will going to get some insights of the customer, and then that insights you will going to turn into actions which will going to generate a revenue. This is the reason why I have to process this huge data. But how do you process? Your existing frameworks won't fit in this scenario to process this data, because right, it was designed to process only sequential data or only traditional database data, understand, right? So there is a need to learn some other framework, because nowadays everything is digitalized. So there is clearly a need. I have to process, when I want to process this huge data and generate a revenue. Remember, traditional database processing never generates huge revenue, because it satisfies the existing customers. You will generate some report of daily usages of your telephone per month, right? Per month you will generate a report. That report won't bring new business, it's at existing customers. But if you perform some analytics on that customer's data, that may bring new business from the existing customer, or it may bring new customer as well, understanding, right? So that is the reason we want to perform some analytics, but the existing infrastructure won't going to solve. Earlier days people used to mine the data, but the data which you want to mine is very less. But nowadays the data was very huge. You know why the huge? You should remember one day, July 27, I'm not sure about the date, July 27, 2007, iPhone came into picture. So from there people generate the data like anything. It's like a digitalized. Okay, because of this one, what happened, the data was generalized. Nowadays everyone, even a rickshaw wala, can also generate a data, understanding, right? If we have some Geo SIM right now, because it's all free to generate some data. Okay, so that is all. What you have to make use of the data, and you have to go to everywhere and make recommendations and make use of the business. That is the main deal nowadays. Okay, so but the existing infrastructure really won't solve that. Everyone understanding, right? So then what is the issue? Okay, why I have to process? You understand the advantages. Let's see some more use cases of a big data. Okay, now look at this here. These are some more use cases. Look at that here. Let's say eBay. How eBay is doing, or eBay or any e-commerce websites is making use of huge data by recommending something. So if you see Amazon, you will see people who bought this item also bought this one. So what was that result? So at the real time, what it will do, it will just go into find out the customers who have bought this item and what is the other item they bought along with this. So that was a huge data. It's not yesterday's data. Let's say if you are buying some iphone, and if I going to give people who have bought iphone yesterday what the other items they have purchased, if I going to recommend like that, let's assume that no one has purchased yesterday's iphone, so you won't get recommendation. Means you are getting recommendations, means it is not working on yesterday's data only, it is working on huge data, huge volume of data, and then recommending something. And also while you are checking out something in the real time, what it will do, it will collect all your logs, means what historical data that you are doing after logging into Amazon, they will collect all the data and they will going to send some recommendations in the real time you are doing, because you need huge faster data processing. If you do it that I will store it in the database, I will process it in batch, by the time user behavior will change, you can't make business with that user because his behavior got changed. You have to buy it, you have to make user to buy when he was in that mood only, so you have to do it in the real time. So that means you need to process that big data very faster. Okay, and also you have something called ad targeting and click fraud detections. There are lot many use cases that are there with the help of a big data. Okay, and I will be talking about the industries use cases of a big data in the next video. Okay, and the other one is what called a telecommunications. Okay, telecommunications, like churn prevention, means let's take some telephone vendors, let's say AT&T or Verizon. What they would like to do, right, they have a lot of customers are there, but because of recent invention called portability, that's really becoming a problem for these companies. So they want to find out the employees who are likely to go out of the network. They have to find them, and they will going to say that, hey, take 100 rupees recharge or $100 recharge. Like that they will going to satisfy the customer who have more complaints, who is likely to go out of the network. So they will predict out the peoples who are would likely to go out of the network and retain them, because retaining is very important than bringing a new customer. So this kind of things, okay, we have to do it out by the help of a big data only. So they're like governments and all, lot many sectors will use as a big data like anything. Okay, like healthcare systems and everything. Okay, so you can have lot many use cases like this. Look at this, there are lot many applications in the big data in marketing as well, and also something logistics and finance. Okay, and also these are all many use cases. But don't think that all these use cases will be solved with the help of your existing infrastructures. Understanding, right? There is something you need extra. You can't really do it out with your traditional processing frameworks. Why and how do we solve it? We will going to see that in the next video. But here you understand clearly what is a big data and why I have to process, what is the real-time scenario, you will see the big data. Okay, and why I have to process it out, what are the advantages of processing big data. And we will going to see in the next video how do we process this 30 days data manually, and how do you automate by using some frameworks like Hadoop, Spark, and lot many HPC. There are lot many frameworks which can process this data. So we will see what are the problems with this and how do we solve it. Okay, so we will cover up that one in the next video. Thank you much, guys.